We're sticking with the safety thing, and just recently in particular, I've been reading about a number of incidents of, especially on the commercial truck side of things, wheels actually coming off the vehicle and bouncing down the motorway. And obviously that's not something that we particularly want to happen in our industry. It's not good for our reputation. So I'm going to invite to the stage somebody who's been campaigning around this issue for some time now and is making great progress. So please welcome to the stage Mr. John Ellis, the Chief Executive Officer of MWheels.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegates, thank you for your time listening today. Normally they say that 45 minutes is about that time people start to drop off. So I'm 2 in, so that's 40 minutes. So 5 minutes from now I might be on my own. That's all. From my point of view, I'm arriving here today in my own capacity as a guy that's been in the wheel business, or in business to some people, for over 30 years. And I've seen an awful lot of different changes over that time. I think the NTDA in those days was a small fiefdom of little places run all over the place. Now it's becoming an umbrella, and listening to the conversations today, somewhere where a lot of activity needs to be brought together in one place, and well done for that. So, from my point of view, wheel safety has caused me some concern. In my early days, I was very happy with the status quo on wheels, the sale of wheels, and where they're going. And what I'm saying today, although it's really focused with commercial truck wheels, invariably what I'll be talking about can reflect down to car wheels and vans from that point of view. I've shifted my attitude towards wheels and their safety from that status quo to becoming an advocate for change. And I think it was somewhere around the financial crisis in particular, about 10 years ago, just prior to that, I started to see things that people were doing that were, in my mind, not correct. For example, there's a well-known thing that goes around that says the Queen, wherever she goes around the world, believes that the world smells of new paint. Well, I believe that unless somebody tells her that they've just painted the place before you've arrived, she wouldn't have any change of mind over that. And I think the same is with wheels. They're invisible to most people. They are used to put the tyre on, and most people will just accept whatever's there at this moment of time, and it is an unforgiving item, as is all steels and aluminium wheels in most cases. And they only become a problem when something happens. From my point of view, and I've changed my appearance in case I owe somebody in here money, from that point of view, we've tried to use the opportunity to shape people's minds, attitudes, and a role that we've taken on is to bring a roadworthiness package of wheel safety to the general combined tyre nation. You are our only customers. There is nobody else out there for a wheel distributor, seller, supplier, other than the tyre business. And from that point of view, you will probably find that our paths have crossed on a number of occasions. We've been charting the wheel space that's out there for quite some time. Some may have heard of us. Our previous name was MWheels Service. We've now changed to MWheels as my partner at that time has gone to stay with Wire Wheels for Morgan cars and Spitfires and Jaguars, that sort of thing, and I've come towards commercial wheel side for distribution throughout Europe. But you'll have definitely felt the impact of what we've been advocating and selling today. Because there is conversations going out throughout Europe, and I was over in Hanover recently with the heads of Continental and Bridgestone, and they both started wheel projects where they are combining all their efforts into looking at where they're sourcing, what they're sourcing, and putting together a complete package for their business. Was there something wrong with it? Well, let's have a look and take a view on that. If you want to see the terms in which the concept that we're talking about is put together, then our first stop is here. Let's just firstly understand what the CV industry is when it comes to wheels. It's not a one-fit wheel business. So where most people just go out, pick the wheel up, call somebody, run it in, it's not that sort of business, never has been. It's a patchwork quilt, in my view, of different brands, variable weights, different carrying loads across entire vehicle fleets. And that's detrimental to your profitability and detrimental to every journey. And it has safety implications. So how can this happen? How can this happen at all? Basically, most of the people in this room are fleet orientated, or that's your end user at the end of the day. So if, for example, our industry, tyre, wheel industry together, was to look at where the end user is, it's a fleet. And if you draw a circle with a line down the centre, part of that fleet will look to OEM to purchase its new truck driving units or its trailers or whatever. And the implications in relation to its tyres and wheels will have been determined by the manufacturer. And from my point of view, that's brilliant because they will have designed a wheel specifically for that vehicle for the best returns. On the other half of the circle is the maintenance. We've now got the fleet in place that we've purchased, now we've got to look after them. And at some stage, whilst you're looking after them, they may have at 3 in the morning a breakdown, the trailer tyre has gone off, and the wheel has been damaged with it. Somebody turns out, and guess what? Did you ask for the same wheel? Possibly not. So a wheel's put on. Is it the right wheel? There are wheels out there that carry 3,500 kgs, where the tyres carry 4,000 to 5,000 kgs. But it's put on there. So you get back to the depot. Do we check it? Do we maintain that? No. And I guarantee this is probably the only industry that can see a brand new fleet arrive on the deck of somebody's liveried fleet, and within a year it'll have different tyres and different wheels on every corner of it. Now that's the nature of our business. And why is it like that? Because we are self-enclosed. And if you want another answer to that, just think about the time that you've had a vehicle, a car or a van, van, truck, etc., and it's had a problem with electrics, or its engine, or its whatever, the window. It goes back to the manufacturer under warranty, or its agent, and that's recorded, and they've got levels of warranty returns. If you leave a factory and hit the curb, and the wheel is damaged, and all the rest of it, that's your problem, etc. Or if there's a problem with it, because it's been put on wrong or whatever, and you recognise that it's the wrong wheel on there and it gets changed, does any of that information get back to the OEM manufacturer? The answer is no, it doesn't. And I'll tell you for why, because lobbying has been a big thing here today, and I've listened to it intently. And from our point of view, we have looked around how to get information, because nobody will believe us there's a problem. But we in the tyre industry know there's a problem. It's like having a party on the Titanic where everything's really rosy on the top deck, but down below we know there's a bloody big hole in it somewhere, especially when it comes to our wheels from our point of view. So we've got to change people's mind and shift them to a safety critical item. And everybody here not think it's a safety critical item. Great. Now you're either too scared to put your hands up, which enhances my position, because that's exactly what I've found where I've ever been throughout Europe. If you believe it's a safety critical item, that it's designed or needed to achieve safety critical activity, then that's what it is. And that's what we've been able to achieve from day one. And that was the changeover in 2010, when people started to look for less weight on their vehicles and less cost for their products, such as wheels, and look around the world for it. That overriding situation demanded, and I think most people, whatever you're selling at that time, would have found that people were now looking away from anything to do with quality, etc., in inverted commas. As long as somebody told me it's all right, I'll accept that, especially if the price is lower and it reduces weight on my vehicle, so I can move more. So we had to get on with lobbying, and I sympathise with the people here today in what they've been trying to get through. We started, and I bring in now a guy called MWheels, who's a PR consultant, brilliant young man. And we sat down and said, look, Matt, I need to bring a strategy together. I don't want to commercialise it because people will, it's been mentioned before, think this is just us trying to sell wheels. I need to change people's minds because it's getting out of hand. And so we decided as a strategy to adopt a few of the main leading entrepreneur magazines and get their editors to buy into our situation. And we set off on a journey of trying to expose to everybody what was happening. This took us to the Under Secretary of State in Parliament. We were told this is something that's been under the radar, we've got all this going along. But when the SMT came along and the RHA and the transport, etc., all their fleets are running well, as you would expect, so there's no problem there. So we had to move further. We then got involved with some organisations to support us, and most people like yourself would enjoy listening and talking, but what can you do about it? I don't see a problem, most people said. That's the point here, that there isn't a problem until there is one. And especially with commercial truck wheels. If your car is aiming at the primary school and your wheel fails and everything comes off, the car may well stop at the fence. But in my business, the commercial world, a fully loaded truck, as many of you may know here, will continue on and take the school out, etc. So from that point of view, we see these as an important point of getting across to people what the safety of this is all about. And these in turn are the steps we've taken since 2010. We were looking at the way that purchase is controlled by people, because if there is a problem, where does it source from? It sources where you buy it. If you allow people to go out and fitters to buy their own wheels, well, if they're going to cut corners, that's what they'll do, etc. So where is, if you're a large organisation, do you keep control of the buying? And then you've got to look at your circle procurement. We then brought in Brian Simpson there, who at that time was head of the European Trans Committee. Trans is transport and tourism. And quote Brian, if it moves in Europe, it comes under my remit, apart from anything in space. So he's the guy that got all your money for compensation for flying. He's the guy that sets all the standards through his committee. And I was able to go and give evidence in Parliament in front of all countries, with Brian as chairman and support and mentor at the time, and we were able to push forward a spot of regulation, which was really useful. Can I quickly ask here a question? I'm not going to follow up with a question from it. It's simple this. Those in the tyre industry in general, can you think of a tyre bit of legislation or regulation that's on the statute books, etc.? Can you think of one for tyres? Come on. Everybody must be able to know that your tyres have to be a certain depth. So I'll start off with that. But there's lots more. Do we agree? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Make my job easier. Now, this is where it gets hard. Tell me one for wheels. And there's the point. There isn't one. Until we started here, there's never been one regulation, one law, one idea for wheels. So, in due deference to our last speaker, you can go out and buy what you like. £15,000 in your pocket now, go back and take a wheel and flog them to you at a really good price. And I look in magazines and I'm seeing people doing just that. So, is that good news? Bear in mind, it's that these people voted throughout Europe, including our own country, by the way, voted that it should be safety critical. And in the new Roadworthiness Act, you will see it's now safety critical. And so we carried on, doing presentations, getting through the votes. And I tell you what, it's time consuming, as speakers have mentioned before. So we got the DFT on Mike Penning here, he was the Under Secretary of State at the time, said, let's get stuck into this. And that's when frustration starts, because Mike Penning moves away to Northern Ireland and the next guy comes in and it's not his flavour. So you have to start all over again. So, in essence, the steps are there, are well written out. We document and got a roadworthiness package coming up to date, and guess what? Our country doesn't want to adopt it now. It's out there, the whole of Europe is now adopting it, but we're not. So once again, we staunchly went back, and currently we're working with the Department for Transport, and there'll be more news about that because we've put forward evidence to try and get into the latest manual the process that we're looking to achieve. So from that point of view, we brought out a white paper. It's available for anything, but that's what brought us to the main items of where we're going to try and get away from the Chinese wheels that are coming in. This is the difficulty where people think, well, you're just fighting against Chinese wheels, trying to get prices and all that sort of thing. The answer is no, we're not. I have strong connections with technical people that are able to test, etc. The standards are very low. And the standards that we wanted to adopt are not the highest, but they're equivalent to the leading markets, because that's where our stroke replacement market sits. It can't find the OEMs sometimes because they're not open at the times you need them. And we don't really want to sit on top of things that have not been checked. So a mid-range brand seems to reflect and sit well with the country, as long as it's safety critical and meets all our 10-point checkpoints. So we're still taking takeoffs, we're still getting second-hand wheels, we're still getting those sorts of ideas, etc. No history, no traceability, no examination procedures sold by anyone. In a way, I can rest my case there. But who's liable for those 40 wheels in the event of serious accident? How often should be the inspected wheels? What are the most important visible clues to key wheel faults, etc.? Those questions, if you haven't got a simple answer there at that moment in time, you say, why? Well, it's quite simple. Failure to apply a full risk assessment during the purchase of a commercial wheel could lead to a corporate manslaughter charge. Oh, scary tactics. I defer to our last speaker, who says, and we've taken legal advice, this is where it sits these days. So if your wheel comes off and the truck goes on to the railway line or smashes into the side of the tunnel, or, and I could quote so many other things that have happened with it, not only does it bring your company into the most basic disrepute, and you can speak to some guys up in Glasgow and various other places where the wheels have come off, who have no business anymore. For a simple insurance of making sure the wheels are tight, you're insuring your own business at the end of the day and looking after yourselves. An item that fails and causes catastrophic injury could lead to a prison sentence. We've heard that before, and I have no doubts about it. The information is there for that to happen. Just look at these. These are things that have come through our door in recent months, etc. Painted aluminium wheels up there that are just flaking apart. These are on everyday use. Nobody's thinking about changing it. This one is a cast wheel, not a forged one, and it just splits because of the weakness of it, the overloading. On the middle one there, instead of changing a cracked valve hole, they've sealed it up. Catastrophic loss of air there, just on a front drive, it just loses the driver control, and cracks around the valve hole. These are just simple problems that you should be able to see, not you personally, but your maintenance people, but they avoid it. It goes over their heads at the end of the day. Just look, that truck in front could be your truck, and I could be driving my family down here at the end of the day. It's as simple as that. We've got to raise the bar here. We would like to, and we've tried for ourselves, to introduce a self-imposed quality system to support you. Wheel identifier tools, wheel checking service, wheel provenance and identification, a 10-point checklist. They're all outside there on our, free of charge, etc. We've now started to put together safety proposals for everybody, and are available. And from that point of view, this last little bit is what our training's started.
Hello, I'm Neil Hitchin, Technical Manager here at MWheels. This video is the first in a series detailing our 10-point wheel checklist to ensure the safety of commercial vehicles. Commercial vehicles are subject to a wide range of stresses and strains on the road, resulting in increased forces placed on the wheels and ultimately damage.
There's more for that, it's all online, but your time, my time, is limited for today. That's our company. Those are the solutions that we put together so that you get supply integrity. We're not here to sell a company, we're here to sell an idea and change ideas. And we hope we would be committed to all this and you could join us in the development of a future, a bright future for a humble item, the wheel. Thank you for your time.
Well, you're talking to a room that also contains several liverymen of the worshipful company Wheelwrights, John, so a very apt presentation. And the one thing that I did want to comment on there, just for Donald's, just to see, in case you missed it, the wheels have come off in Glasgow. Go on. A bold statement, isn't it?